Everybody squeeze in. Come on in. Come on in as tight as we can. Let's get everyone together.
Come on in. Come on in. Fantastic. A little bit further in. Come on, we're not going to get
Q&A as well.
Democrats here.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Catherine. I'm a Beto volunteer. I'm one of the very many thousands of people that Beto managed to get off the couch in 2018. And since then, I only take a break when Beto takes a break, basically. And barely then as well. Welcome, everybody. I know the weather is a bit dodgy, but that's actually a really good thing because that means that people stay home. Before I introduce Beto, I'm going to just acknowledge some of the people we have here. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Monster Man Action for coming out here. And then we have Clayton Tucker. There you are. Running for Texas Senate District 24. Fantastic. Welcome. And then we also have Sri, who's amazing. He's been here just about every single. And of course, one of the key guests of honor, Jim Hightower. Last Democrat to win a statewide race in Texas, and so he's a role model for all of us. Wow. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Beto, my personal hero.
This is so great. There are folks who are writing postcards right now to voters to make sure that we get them out to vote. There are folks at home across Texas, across this country, who may not be able to knock on doors, may not have the time, may literally not be able to do the walking, and so they're at home either making phone calls or texting or knocking on doors or writing postcards in addition to those of us knocking on doors. So very grateful for the work that you all are doing. I know this is killing Brian O'Neill. Where is he? Brian wants to get out the door and knock on doors because of the 400 volunteers that we had last weekend. He knocked on more doors than anyone else, 275 doors. He won a stainless steel water bottle. So many of you came from so far away, some from Austin, Texas. I just met two young women who just drove down. They're about to begin their first shift. We have a contingent from Baytown. John Patterson, who was with us last week, who's the vice president of the Baytown Young Democrats. And here we were, we finished all of our block walking last weekend. It was a Sunday evening. We were congratulating one another, drinking a beer, sitting across the table from John. And he informs me that he is a school bus driver in Baytown, has to get up at 4 a.m. the next day for his shift, but wants to make sure that he's spending all of his free time getting Eliz elected, being in the front lines of his democracy, knowing there are no sidelines when it comes to 2020, the most important year, someone said, not just of our lives, but of the country's lifetime. And so proud of each and every single one of you for stepping up and getting out there, knocking on doors, and making this happen. I have the pleasure of introducing one of my all-time heroes on planet Earth, Jim Hightower. We've urged him to share with us how he campaigns, what this moment means to him, what he expects from all of us. And it's for everyone here in the room. We have our followers on Instagram and on Facebook watching through live stream as well, so we're going to connect with them as well. He's going to then introduce our candidate, Eliz Markowitz. And then Jim just suggested to me, and I think this is a great idea, that we take a few minutes to answer some questions from you, whether it is for the candidate herself, someone who used to be a candidate himself, or someone who held a statewide office of public trust in Texas from 1983 to 1991, Jim Hightower. And last thing that I tell you about him before I ask him to come up and introduce himself. When I was a young man, I had the chance to hear Commissioner Hightower speak. And one of the things that he said that has always stuck with me is that the only thing that you're going to find in the middle of the road are yellow lines and dead armadillos. When I worry about if a position that I take is going to compromise my ability to win an election, or to curry favor with the voters, or to make me more popular with the people that I want to represent, I think about his advice. Find out what is right, and then pursue it. Have the courage of your convictions, and take them each and every single place that you go to. When in 2018, we campaigned like Hightower and went to every single one of the 254 counties of Texas, wrote nobody off, took no one for granted, never compromised the courage of our convictions, said the same thing, whether we were in Amarillo or in Austin, Texas. We together, all of us, helped to produce the largest voter turnout in a midterm in the history of the state of Texas. Young voters turned out at a rate 500% greater than the last midterm election. We won more votes than any Democrat had before, elected 2 new members of Congress, 12 new members of the state house, 17 African-American women to judicial positions in Harris County. And that lesson and that path was blazed by Jim Hightower. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Hightower.
Yes, we've got him. Come up. Thank you. Just a joy to be here for the O'Rourke Democracy Palooza. I have known Beto for before he knew that I knew him. Back in the days when I was campaigning, 1982 with Ann Richards and Jimmy Maddox and Gary Morrow, myself, we all ran together. We had a unified campaign, and we all won because we went out and did exactly what Beto is talking about here. We went directly to the people, and we talked to the people honestly, and we rallied them into something that actually mattered. And not only did we get elected, but because we had all campaigned together, we knew each other, so we could trust each other in government, and we could govern actually for the people. So it's a joy to be here, to be part of this weekend of action. And that's really what it takes. I do a lot of work with our Revolution in Texas, and we've got a crew coming in here this weekend as well from our groups around the state. And our slogan is, we're not here to protest the government, we're here to become the government.
Yeah.
And as Beto has indicated, as I said, I knew his father. His father was county judge when I was running as county judge out in El Paso, and Pat O'Rourke had an event, political event for me in the courthouse in El Paso, and he got a call from a reporter who said, well, how can you have a political meeting in a public hall? And he said, because it's a public hall. So we got to be a little sassy about how we approach things here. And Beto is so great because he doesn't need a GPS and a Google map to find the grassroots. He is grassroots. He's been.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it. Exactly what you are doing. Do it being democracy. First, you have a solid candidate, and that's what we have with Eliz. Look at her program. Elizabeth Warren thinks she has a plan. But this is what it takes: honesty and integrity, and going right to the people and what it is you want to do, who you want to help. Now, I learned in politics early on, it's not just a matter of being for labor, not just a matter of being for the environment, for farmers, etc. You got to be willing to be against the bastards who are running roughshod over labor and over farmers and over the consumers in our country. And that's what I think of Eliz in terms of a longtime humorist back at the turn of the 1900s. And he was sort of a precursor to Will Rogers and a guy named Ken Hubbard. And he said that every now and then an innocent person gets sent to the legislature. That's what we're trying to do right now. So first, you start with a good candidate. Second, you got a grassroots, people-to-people campaign. That's what it takes. They got the fat cats, but we got the alley cats.
Yeah.
And And third, you got to deal with the issues that matter. And again, we've got a list of them here, but things like health care. Every Texan cares about health care.
Yep.
Because they don't have it, or they have a plan that is just worthless, essentially. That's, you know, it should be dealt with as a human right, not a commodity to be purchased for the highest dollar. And it ought to be available to every single person, every man, woman, and particularly child in our state ought to have full health care coverage. We call it Medicare for y'all. Personally, you know, I would settle for Congress care. I would take the health plan that our members of Congress have. We pay 72% of their health care bill, and they have direct socialized health care in the capital of the United States Congress, which Beto would know about. Very few Americans know that there's an office in there of doctors, of technicians, of nurses, and et cetera, that take care of every little boo-boo that they might have for free. They don't have to present a health care card. They don't have to present everything. They just present themselves. No bill is ever presented to them. So that's kind of what we're battling. I come to you not just from Austin, Texas today, but from South Austin. We're a little more irreverent on the south side. Molly Ivins was over there, John, all of us. And our unofficial slogan on the south side is we're all here because we're not all there. And that's what I think brings y'all together. Because we know that the powers that be are not at all there in terms of understanding what America is all about. They're as confused as goats on AstroTurf when it comes to understanding. The core of America is the notion that we're all in this together. And that's what they're destroying. They're separating their good fortunes from the well-being of everybody. So we're in a fight not just against Trump and Abbott, but we're in a fight against the powers that be behind Trump and Abbott, who make their disgusting policies possible, who enable them and fund them. We're battling what I call the 6 Bs, the bosses, the bankers, the billionaires, the big shots, bastards, and bullshitters. They think they're the top dogs, and we're just a bunch of fire hydrants out here. You know? So that's what we're up against, and why we are out here. The 6 Bs are knocking down the middle class. They're holding down the poor. They're tearing down our democratic rights. You know, economists have a technical term for this. It's called stealing. They're stealing faster than a hog eats supper. They're stealing our rights, our possibilities, our children's future. So my message to you, and I'm sure you're wondering what it is by now, is this. It's up to us. It is not up to Eliz. It's not up to Beto. It's not up to presidential candidates. It's up to exactly you and you and you and you and the people you're connected with and the doors that you're knocking on here. We have to build our own democracy, and we have to sustain democracy and cling to the elements of it that we have. Of course, the cynics within our own party, but the cynics and the corporatists say, oh, you can't win, you can't beat the big money. They've got all the money, they've got all the politicians, they control the media and et cetera. But as a friend of mine who's been a pioneer in the organic movement puts it, those who say it can't be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. That would be you. So I've come down from South Austin today just to thank you for standing up, for getting out in the rain and walking and talking. That front porch campaign is more effective than any other kind of campaigning that is possible in our country. So you're doing the right work. I thank you for acting up against the power establishment that's trying to stomp on us. I thank you for teaming up with each other, all the Moms that Demand Action, the environmental groups, the labor groups coming together, the rank and file folks coming together, and then for powering them, because that's what this represents. When we come together, we win. I think of efforts like this in terms of a little hardware store near my home in Austin, also South Austin, called Harold's Hardware. And it's not one of these big box things. It's a little local place, probably about twice as big as this room right here. But it's a great place. You don't have to buy the whole carton of nails. They'll sell you 2 nails. If that's what you're after. And they'll say, well, what are you trying to do? Well, I want to build a platform. Well, let's pencil it out here and see what you. They'll loan you a tool. You can take a power saw home and bring it back. And the slogan at Harold's Hardware is, together, we can do it yourself. We can't do it ourselves, but together, we can do it all. Let's get out there and do it.
So, quick update as I bring Dr. Eliz Markowitz up. I told you earlier we had 400 volunteers last weekend. We knocked on 12,040 doors over Saturday and Sunday. As of this moment, we have 390 volunteers signed up for today, tomorrow, and Monday. So far, Dan, we have knocked on how many doors?
1,700 doors.
1,700 doors just so far today. So please keep it up. I just did my first shift with Eliz. Once again, got to see how she works, as Hightower said, on someone's front porch. Introducing herself briefly with a smile, lots of joy, and then welcoming that person whom she's just met to tell them what's on their mind. And we heard about people who were concerned about public education. We met a teacher last night at the bar who was working her shift at the bar, who also then on Monday is going to go back to her shift at school. Half of school teachers in Texas are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet right now. Eliz is connecting with them. We talked to people who are concerned about gun violence in their schools after the shooting and the murder at Bel Air High School earlier this week. Folks want someone who's going to stand up for them. And when they meet Eliz, one of the most compassionate, empathetic leaders I've ever had the pleasure to work with, they know that they have a winner and they're going to get behind her. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your candidate, Eliz Markowitz.
Are you guys ready to flip this seat? That's what I like to hear. So thank you guys for all coming out here today. It's great to see that this is a packed room, right? And look at how diverse this room is. This is really what the Democratic Party is, right?
Everybody.
Looking for all races, all ethnicities, religions, all people, because that's who we are. I had the pleasure of shortly, like 5 minutes ago, meeting Susanna and her son John and her daughter Sophia. And it was such a compelling meeting, for me at least. Susanna is an immigrant to this country. She came here for more opportunities, for a better life. And we know that just last week, Governor Abbott said, we're no longer accepting immigrants. We're no longer going to allow people to come to this land and have the American dream, the land of opportunity. And what does that say about us as a state, us as a nation, where we are no longer accepting people like Susanna and her family with open arms? It's un-American and it's un-Texan, and it feeds into a larger issue. She said that Susanna, when she's watching the news on TV, says, "This is so sad, Mommy." The hatred that the upper levels of our administration are putting out to the entire population, the bigotry and the hatred, the xenophobia that is running rampant, not only in HD 28 and in Texas, but across this nation, is not what we are fighting for. We are fighting for diversity and inclusion, restoring honesty and integrity to not only Fort Bend County and HD 28, but America as a whole. We are working to make sure that John and Susanna don't have to be victims of gun violence in their schools. So I don't have to see a tweet from Liz that says, "Hey Eliz, there was a shooting at Bel Air High School. What are you gonna do about it?" So that we don't have to worry about Kat's children having a climate and a world in which they can inherit. We are fighting for something so much greater than all of ourselves. And so the fact that you took the time out of your schedules to come here, to go knock on doors, and to go restore democracy to HD 28, to Fort Bend County, to Texas. And hopefully this will spread and it will grow and we will get back to the America that we are so proud of. And so thank you for spending your time here. We have a lot to do in 10 days, and hopefully, once we flip this seat, then we flip 8 more in November. We will be able to establish an independent redistricting committee that will end the racially gerrymandered maps that have suppressed the voices of Americans and Texans and get towards a more greater union. So thank you for coming out here. Thank you for spending your time. And just so we don't have someone have a heart attack here, let's go knock some doors.